The movie never changes. It can't change, but every time you see it, it seems different because you're different. It's time to talk about 12 Monkeys. In 1996, a deadly virus is unleashed by a group calling themselves the Army of the 12 Monkeys, destroying much of the world's population and forcing survivors underground. In 2035, prisoner James Cole is chosen to go back in time and trace the origins of the virus and help scientists in their search for a cure. The movie is directed by Terry Gilliam and stars Bruce Willis, Madeline Stowe, and Brad Pitt. David Peoples co-wrote 12 Monkeys with his wife Janet. David Peoples is probably best known as sort of like the second screenwriter or the co-screenwriter for a little film called Blade Runner. Originally, the screenplay was written by Hampton Fancher, but David Peoples came in to help clean things up and do some things that Ridley Scott wanted for Blade Runner. So yeah, this story is, there's a lot of layers to it, and I love it for that. So many movies these days are just meant to be that kind of one-time disposable entertainment. I mean, how many times in the last, I don't know, say 10 years, have you rewatched a movie that you saw? It's just not a common thing. Most movies are very disposable. This movie is meant to be watched multiple times, and it gets better every time you watch it. For those of you who have been around the channel for a while, you may know that I'm a big fan of Alfred Hitchcock. Hitchcock movies, for whatever reason, they really spoke to me at a very, very young age. And he was one of the first directors where I was really aware of who he was and that I wanted to see more of him. You know, for somebody who's like 9, 10 years old, it was probably a little weird. But look, I was always a fan, and to see the connections to Hitchcock's work in this movie, of course, was something that immediately made me go, yeah, this is a good one. Vertigo is one of my favorite movies, and the connections with Vertigo, especially, well, let's just say towards the end, I love it. The look of this movie is a lot of people would probably just say off. You know, I think it's probably 50% Dutch angles, where everything is just tilted just the right way to give you that sort of that uncomfortable feeling that something's off. And of course, his set design is very, very similar, especially in the future settings, very similar to his previous film, Brazil, that came out in 1985. One of those movies that, divided audiences, let's just say. But I've been a fan of Terry Gilliam for a while. Of course, the Monty Python, his work with Monty Python is amazing. And then Time Bandits was one of those movies that as a kid, I just loved it. So yeah, when 12 Monkeys came out, I saw it opening night. And I remember 12 Monkeys vividly, that screening vividly, because I was starting to get sick. So I remember every time I watch the movie, I have this feeling like, where it's like, I don't know, I kind of remember kind of getting sick and feeling that the sniffles and all that kind of stuff happening. But man, that movie, that opening night screening was amazing. And I remember there's a point in the movie, I talked about Hitchcock, when things started to really start to click, as far as story-wise, I just went, oh, totally forgetting that I was in the middle of a theater with plenty of people. And then I was like, oh, crap. Now let's talk about some of the acting. So the acting, it's kind of interesting to hear that Terry Gilliam was kind of afraid of using big stars in this movie like Bruce Willis and Brad Pitt. And the thing is both of those actors wanted to prove themselves in this movie. They wanted to prove that they were real actors, that they weren't just action stars or pretty faces. They really wanted to show what they had to offer. For Bruce Willis in particular, this film was a pretty big risk. If you think about the time period that this came out in 1995, he had just come off of Pulp Fiction, he was a pretty big star, right? And then all of a sudden, you're in this movie that's more of like a European art film than it is a Hollywood blockbuster, and he's weak, and he shows this vulnerability, and he's constantly in pain and unsure of himself. This is a big departure from what we'd seen from Bruce Willis in his past movies. His acting, seriously, is just it's really, really amazing to watch. there's so much going on in his face, and you can tell what he's thinking about. He's confused, and it really is amazing. And it's not necessarily apparent on first viewing. Once you know the story and once you know what the character is actually going through, because you see some of his backstory, that is one of those things that you can see it in his face, and it's a wonder to watch. But look, as good as Bruce Willis is, he's pretty much overshadowed by Brad Pitt in this movie. Brad Pitt absolutely transforms into the character of Jeffrey Goins, and there are times when I just kind of forget that it's Brad Pitt. I know that that's weird, but he's so good and he's so strange. It's an amazing performance, and some might say it's a little over the top, but I really, really enjoyed it. And he actually got a Golden Globe for this performance and an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor. So, I mean, other people definitely were looking at Brad Pitt after this and going, wow, this kid can actually act. And Madeline Stowe, a lot of people, when they talk about 12 Monkeys, they don't really talk about Madeline Stowe, but her part is really, really important. And she's really terrific in this role, because you see her sanity start to break down, as she's trying to piece together everything that's going on. These ridiculous rantings by Cole, and the violence, and the fact that she's taken out of her comfort zone. She's our anchor. She's basically the audience, and she is confused just like we are. And as she starts to piece things together, so do we. And that's not easy to pull off the way that she did. And I really, really appreciated her performance, especially this time. Look, I don't want to go too far into the story of 12 Monkeys and all that, because if you haven't seen it, you really, really ought to see it. And in fact, try to watch it more than once. Give yourself a break, think about it a little bit, because I think this is one of those movies that you'll come away with it going, okay, you'll find yourself thinking about it. And then when you watch it again, you start to see all these clues. And then again, you can appreciate the performances even more, because especially like Bruce Willis, you can see the transformation. But anyway, I hadn't seen it in probably, 8 years, something like that. And so when I heard that Arrow was putting out a 4K edition, I was all over it. As far as presentation goes, I mean, look, it's not as extensive as some of the previous Arrow editions that I've reviewed on this channel. But this one, I mean, it's pretty good. Of course, it comes with a single 4K disc, right? And it comes with a nice little book, with full color photographs and all that kind of stuff. But the meat of it is really on the disc itself. And there's the commentary with Terry Gilliam. There's the all of the making of sort of features. There's a really excellent making of documentary called The Hamster Factor and Other Tales of 12 Monkeys, basically telling the story, from his sort of point of view. There's a camera crew following them around on the making of the movie. It's really kind of fun to see all of the, well, look, there's trouble on set. There's always things that you have to work around, and that is really fun to see, especially Terry dealing with some of the problems that he's got to go through. It's pretty awesome stuff. For the quality of the movie, I will say that from my own personal opinion, now look, I've never owned the Arrow Blu-ray, so I can't speak to the quality of that. But from my perspective, that's what this seemed like. It seemed like a Blu-ray. It didn't seem like it was in 4K quality. I think it's because of the way that the 12 Monkeys was shot. It has this soft look to it. So I'm not exactly sure if it's worth getting the 4K over the regular Blu-ray. Of course, if you have 4K, I mean, why not? But I didn't see this huge difference in quality, at least from what I'd remembered in the past. And something else I noticed, which I don't know if it was just a subconscious thing, but I remember thinking that some of the dialogue sounded a little strange, and wasn't really thinking about, how, I mean, you're sucked into the movie, right? For me, I didn't realize how much ADR was done. You can definitely tell in some of the scenes where there's a lot of conversation going on. You can hear this slight difference in audio quality when they switch from an ADR line to, I'm guessing the on-set microphones. It's kind of interesting that I didn't really pick up on that before, and I really picked up on it this time. And overall, look, I get sucked into the movie, you know? And so with audio and even some of the video issues where I'm saying, is it really worth getting the 4K? Look, the point of it is the movie is so good that get it on the format that you're going to watch it on. I mean, that's pretty much how I look at it. Watching this movie again made me realize that, yeah, there's only a few movies, really. You know, it's such a rare thing to have a movie be a 4-star for me. And this one is absolutely a 4-star rating. I mean, this is one of my favorite movies. And yeah, I recommend it to anyone, especially if you like those little puzzles that happen after you watch a movie. You know, you just kind of start thinking about it, and it's like it just kind of infects your mind, and that's kind of awesome. So, 12 Monkeys. Have you seen it? What do you think about it? Are you a fan of Arrow films like I am? I mean, I bought a few here in the last couple of months. They do a great job putting these editions together. Even if this one's a little more sparse, you know, say for RoboCop or American Werewolf in London, this is still one of those editions where it's like, okay, this is some great stuff on here. So if you've seen 12 Monkeys, let me know what you think about it. And yeah, because that's a lot of fun. So thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.